film and why it's so empowering. And I think that that is really important. But I think what's beautiful about this film is there is every color of human emotion in it.
Your new wrap gift. I know we're not supposed to pull from these flower arrangements, but oh, are you doing that?
Sorry.
What's to say about her style?
I mean, I love Lily's style. I think when you see the film, her style makes sense because she's a woman of multitudes. It's storytelling. To me, fashion and costume design is storytelling.
Hi, everyone. Let's talk about one of Hollywood's most confusing career stories. Imagine an actress leads a film to a stunning $50 million opening weekend, a number that shatters records for romantic dramas. By every traditional measure, she should be at the absolute peak of her power, with studios fighting to offer her blank checks and A-list directors lining up at her door. That's exactly what Blake Lively and her team expected after It Ends With Us. But instead of her phone ringing off the hook, it went dead silent. How is that even possible? How does a certified box office smash actually tank a career? The answer is a deep, complex story of backstage power struggles, catastrophic marketing missteps, and a reputation that, according to insider legal testimony, has made her virtually unhireable in the eyes of major studios. This isn't just gossip. This narrative is built from the sworn statements of the very people who were managing her career: her agent, Warren Zavala, and her manager, Justin Stone. Their testimony paints a bleak picture. They admit that while scripts still trickle in, they are not the meaningful offers from big studios with real financial backing that a star of her caliber should command. In their own words, at this time, no one wants to hire Blake. This statement made last fall hangs over everything. So, what caused this stunning reversal of fortune? The trail leads directly back to the chaotic campaign and production of It Ends With Us. According to the insiders, the controversy wasn't a minor blip. It was a perfect storm. Concerns swirled around how Blake infused her personal brand into the film's promotion, reigniting old rumors about her being difficult and prone to taking over projects. But the most damaging allegation? That she became seen as litigious. In Hollywood, that's a career killer. A star perceived as quick to sue creates a hostile environment, skyrockets production insurance costs, and sends studios running for safer, less complicated talent. While actors can and should advocate for themselves, publicly airing disputes, especially through a major outlet like the New York Times, is seen as a nuclear option. That move, her team suggests, severely damaged her marketability, with her popularity reportedly plummeting. The massive success of the film was completely overshadowed by the toxic cloud of controversy it generated, creating a paradox where the hit movie became the thing that ended her leading lady status. Now, let's break down the specific marketing choices that sparked such intense backlash. Blake Lively and Sony have pointed fingers at online smear campaigns, but the most damning criticism didn't come from anonymous trolls or bots. It came from heavyweight, legitimate organizations dedicated to supporting survivors of domestic violence, the very issue at the heart of the film. Groups like Women's Aid, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and Raliance raised serious public concerns. They argued the marketing campaign, with its grab your girlfriends and wear your florals vibe, dangerously misled audiences, packaging a story about trauma as a fun girls' night out. This tone was completely incongruous with the serious subject matter, potentially triggering survivors who walked in expecting a light romance. These advocates accused the campaign of trivializing trauma. By focusing on fashion pop-up shops, lighthearted press tours, and the aesthetics of the lead character Lily Bloom's journey, they felt the marketing minimized the severity of domestic violence and failed to respect survivors. A major point of contention was the lack of clear content warnings and the failure to prominently display survivor resources, like the hotline number, immediately at the film's end. Furthermore, Blake faced significant backlash for her personal product tie-ins during the press tour, specifically promoting her Betty Buzz beverage brand and her hair care line. The pinnacle of this insensitivity, critics noted, was marketing a themed cocktail named after the film's abusive character, Ryle. Given the well-documented link between alcohol abuse and domestic violence, this move was seen as wildly inappropriate and exploitative. This is the crucial context. As the video narrator points out, these are criticisms that did not come from bots. They came from legitimate nonprofit organizations, advocates, and survivors who felt the marketing was exploitative and prioritized ticket sales over well-being. Yet, in the legal battle, Blake's team largely sidestepped this substantive, good faith criticism. Instead, they focused on alleging coordinated online smear campaigns, a deflection that rings hollow when confronted with the reasoned concerns of major advocacy groups. The question posed is powerful. How can she negate what the National DV Hotline has said and claim that's a smear campaign? She can't answer that. This framing shift, from addressing valid critique to claiming victimhood, is a central part of the story. The very organizations that criticize the marketing have not come to her defense in this legal case, highlighting a disconnect between her narrative and the perception of those closest to the issue. To understand how this marketing happened, we need to go inside Sony. The testimony of marketing executive Josh Greenstein is revealing. When asked about the public criticism, Greenstein acknowledged it centered on the campaign not dealing hard enough with the domestic violence, that it was very flowery. But he defended the strategy, stating it was born from market research and direct feedback from Blake Lively and author Colleen Hoover. Their shared vision, which he called SMART, was to market Lily as a complex woman not defined by the abuse she endured, a woman who was strong, self-sufficient, and had a business and friendships. However, the legal counsel pushed back on this framing. They suggested the marketing team made a conscious decision to downplay the abuse and play up Lily Bloom's character strengths to maximize appeal. Greenstein denied this was the correct statement, insisting they were not hiding or shying away from the domestic violence. But then he admitted a telling truth. If you made everything just about that, it would not have opened as big as it did. This gets to the core of the ethical dilemma. Was the campaign empowering or intentionally misleading? The video's narrator argues it was the latter. We're going to trick you to come to this film because if we tell you the truth about what it is, you're not going to want to see it. Greenstein's testimony also touches on Blake's personal brand promotions. He claimed he was only vaguely aware of negative chatter when she launched a beauty line close to the release, and he outright denied awareness of criticism linking her Betty Buzz alcohol brand to the film's theme, a claim the narrator finds hard to believe. More importantly, Greenstein confirmed that Blake was very happy with the marketing, communicating her satisfaction repeatedly because of the colossal box office results. This is key. It shows she was not a passive participant but an active architect and endorser of the very strategy that later drew fire. Her happiness was rooted in the commercial triumph, which she believed, as her manager stated, would be her true arrival as a top-tier movie star. To understand how this marketing happened, we need to go inside Sony. The testimony of marketing executive Josh Greenstein is revealing. When asked about the public criticism, Greenstein acknowledged it centered on the campaign not dealing hard enough with the domestic violence, that it was very flowery. But he defended the strategy, stating it was born from market research and direct feedback from Blake Lively and author Colleen Hoover. Their shared vision, which he called SMART, was to market Lily as a complex woman not defined by the abuse she endured, a woman who was strong, self-sufficient, and had a business and friendships. However, the legal counsel pushed back on this framing. They suggested the marketing team made a conscious decision to downplay the abuse and play up Lily Bloom's character strengths to maximize appeal. Greenstein denied this was the correct statement, insisting they were not hiding or shying away from the domestic violence. But then he admitted a telling truth. If you made everything just about that, it would not have opened as big as it did. This gets to the core of the ethical dilemma. Was the campaign empowering or intentionally misleading? The video's narrator argues it was the latter. We're going to trick you to come to this film because if we tell you the truth about what it is, you're not going to want to see it. Greenstein's testimony also touches on Blake's personal brand promotions. He claimed he was only vaguely aware of negative chatter when she launched a beauty line close to the release, and he outright denied awareness of criticism linking her Betty Buzz alcohol brand to the film's theme, a claim the narrator finds hard to believe. More importantly, Greenstein confirmed that Blake was very happy with the marketing, communicating her satisfaction repeatedly because of the colossal box office results. This is key. It shows she was not a passive participant but an active architect and endorser of the very strategy that later drew fire. Her happiness was rooted in the commercial triumph, which she believed, as her manager stated, would be her true arrival as a top-tier movie star. The controversy extended far beyond marketing into raw power struggles on set and in the editing room. Testimony reveals Blake Lively wielded significant leverage, at times threatening not to participate in essential promotional work if her demands weren't met. A striking example involved the premiere. Josh Greenstein confirmed that Blake indicated she might not show up at the premiere if her demands regarding co-star and director Justin Baldoni were not met. While he downplayed it as a possibility he was worried about, the message was clear. Her participation was conditional. Sony and production company Wayfarer acquiesced because, as Greenstein stated, they needed their lead actress to show up and promote the movie. The heart of the difficult reputation, however, lies in the battle over the film's edit. Testimony outlines a complex process where Justin Baldoni's initial cut was scoring higher with test audiences. Despite this, Blake Lively, with author Colleen Hoover's strong support, championed her own version. Greenstein admits that Hoover's desire to go with Blake's cut played a huge role. Blake brought Hoover into the editing bay, giving her substantial influence, an unusual level of access for an author. Crucially, Greenstein clarifies that the final film was never truly Blake's cut. He describes it as a mix. It's some of Blake's work and it's some of Justin's work. He states Blake never built a full cut from scratch. She worked over the existing footage Baldoni had assembled, changing scenes and the ending to her preference. In fact, editors testified that about 90% of Baldoni's movie ended up back in the final cut. The narrator likens this to taking someone else's work and passing it off as your own. The conclusion is stark. She threatened her way into a cut, and then she threatened not to promote if she didn't get a cut. This behavior cemented the perception of her as an actor who oversteps, creating conflict and driving up costs, a major red flag for risk-averse studios. All of this was in service of a single goal, as outlined by her manager, using a massive opening weekend to prove her green liability and launch herself into the top tier of compensation and prestige projects. So, what happened after that huge opening weekend? According to her own representatives, the exact opposite of what was expected. Her manager, Justin Stone, set the scene. A $50 million opening should have meant phones, ringing off the hook with incoming opportunities and offers. It represented her true arrival as a top-tier movie star. Instead, he testified they did not. There were no meaningful offers, meaning projects with real financing, distribution, and start dates. Her agent, Warren Zavala, echoed this, confirming there had been just generally less interest in Miss Lively in films following the release. The testimony lays out a devastating list of reasons why the offers dried up. 1. The difficult reputation, weariness from her alleged tendency to take over movies and create on-set power struggles, not just on It Ends With Us, but rumored on past projects like The Rhythm Section. 2. The litigious label. Being seen as a legal risk makes her a financial liability, increasing production insurance costs, a concrete, bottom-line deterrent for studios. 3. The public sentiment drop. The severe backlash to the marketing damaged her brand, associating her with insensitivity rather than artistry. 4. The budget reputation. Rumors that her demands contributed to It Ends With Us blowing through its budget, marking her as a risk for financial efficiency. 5. Industry perceptions of her range, a cynical, but noted, view that as she ages out of her gossip girl, it girl persona, she lacks the versatility for a wider range of meaty, adult roles. This is compounded by a harsh new reality in Hollywood. The narrator explains the industry is contracting. Fewer theatrical films are being made. Studios are hemorrhaging money and cutting jobs, and they are increasingly relying on safe, franchise blockbusters. In this cutthroat environment, where everyone is fighting for less square footage, a star perceived as difficult, expensive, and controversial is the first to be left out in the cold. Blake Lively's campaign, the video argues, was never truly about the survivors or the art. It was a self-serving attempt to grab that top-tier square footage. when it backfired spectacularly due to her own actions. Her career, as her team admits, was left in jeopardy. They explicitly state the negative backlash and her reputation are why she is now unhireable at the studio level. The story of It Ends With Us is a modern Hollywood tragedy. It's the story of how winning the box office battle can cause you to lose the career war. Blake Lively got the colossal opening weekend she wanted, but at the cost of her reputation, her industry relationships, and her viability as a leading lady for major studios. The sworn testimonies from her inner circle and Sony executives don't just suggest a rough patch. They describe a professional collapse triggered by a series of calculated risks that alienated audiences, advocates, and the entire studio system. It's a stark lesson in how perception becomes reality in Hollywood. You can have the $50 million debut, but if you're seen as litigious, difficult, and tone-deaf, that number becomes meaningless. The final takeaway is that her career isn't a victim of online trolls, but of substantiated criticism and the professional consequences that followed. Her own agent and manager have essentially testified to that fact. What do you think? Was this a series of unfortunate missteps or the inevitable result of a star overplaying her hand? Do you believe a comeback is possible, or has the damage been cemented by this testimony? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this deep dive into the behind-the-scenes drama of Hollywood surprised you, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update when we break down stories like this. Thanks for watching, everyone.